Briefly the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
There were some people not happy.
Oh, yeah.
Are you Jamie? It just started leading in.
Yeah.
I just nodded, kind of waiting, and then like, oh, you're just so like quickly
Yeah.
Well, welcome to city government. That's city government where
Very,
very few people walk in happy.
oh, hey. Anyway, I got plenty of spots in town. If the sign's up in the wrong spot, let me know. Like I know the other guys. I'll say from a coach's perspective, the wrestlers, the other day the Knights put up Birka signs all over town, and I told them, like, that's not legal, you know. I didn't put them up, but I'm just saying, I'll clean up my messes. But
let me go downstairs and grab your water.
oh, I don't need water.
Make sure you're sure. I can get you one down in the other refrigerator downstairs. You sure?
No, please. No, I need water.
Find a seat, relax. Chill out and see. He's like, I'm probably running 5 minutes or so late.
It's fine.
Come on, we'll be here. We ain't going nowhere.
We are not going anywhere.
Oh shit. So what's new? Anything?
Let's see, what's new? The Storm Water Easement with Fisher is so we were going to do, the easement was going to run like along the,
Where you're tearing down that building or whatever?
but now they can't do it. The railroad won't let them do it there. So now they're trying to run it like right through the middle of the property, which is,
How the hell are they going to do it down the middle?
well, I mean, it's just like, whatever. SD1, so like SD1 has to pick it up and they got to run it like at a diagonal. So it's just like I don't know. I mean, it is a challenge because, I don't know. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I bet it is. Well, I'm just running some bitch underground, and that's crazy shit right there. How they're going to do it. And
Well, I think it's better like where they, instead of doing it like right against the road and stuff, because I think they can like, so how the railroad's like this, that's why they didn't want it like.
right on the edge of it.
So, but then SD1 wants to do, I don't know. It's.
Where does SD1 want it?
Well, they don't like how all the water, because it'll flood down there sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. However that's designed, because it all washes. It'll come under the underpass here. All this, the way it's designed is shit. And then it doesn't help. Do you know there's drains up here on the railroad? There's 4 of them, and they're rarely are they not covered with mud and rock. So you have to go up the railroad all the time and go, hey, could you uncover these huge drains that are around this hillside? If they keep those drains clean, it'll catch all that water that's coming down. But they don't. They're covered with mud, and then they only give a shit.
Were you here at Cabin Fever? Like it's all blended.
Shut
Remember when like we were like an island?
Oh yeah, you're stuck. Yeah, we
that
were
was
going around to people saying, "Get comfortable. There ain't nowhere to go." We were, there ain't nowhere to get out for a few hours because it was stuck here.
Well, I guess you could get out if you went down on a high.
Yeah.
There was one way out.
Yeah.
We weren't really an island, but because Bromley was flooded down there.
Yeah,
Sleepy Hollow was underwater.
And
then this was like
and that was when Sleepy Hollow, the drainage back here was bad.
a mess.
On Carlisle.
Do we know what's going on? I mean, is it top secret? Do we know what's going on? I mean, he keeps running the stuff down there. Is he building some development?
No, just building it up. He had to build it up so many feet because it's dump. He dumps all that shit.
Yeah.
So he had to have so many feet above that to build on it. So he has 60-something acres right now that's to the level it needs to be. He has another 20-something that has to be built up to that level. So all he's doing is, it's a lot of dirt, just keeps doing it. And then once he gets that level, he can sell it off that can actually be built on. You can't build on it until he gets it all up to level. So he just
because they like tore down Riverfront Stadium and then threw all the.
Oh yeah, Abby used to say it burnt for almost 10 years. He said there'd be little flames coming out of the ground, where who knows what the hell they really put in there. He said you could walk back here at night and see a little flame coming out, like where the methane and shit coming out of it. It's probably dead bodies and back in the day, you never know who got dumped in that son of a bitch.
I don't. I'm.
So
I don't know. What do I know?
It's probably best not to know. As far as that kind of shit goes.
No, I mean I know. I'm working hard down in Big Blue here to like get it all. It's just It's chickens and eggs. It's chickens and eggs.
do you
It's
mean?
well, getting like the oven, kitchen down here, funded. Project down there. It's cool. There's a really great. I'm going to send it to the historic preservation people because I spent about an hour and a half Zoom with the head of historic preservation and the head of historic tax credits, and it's cool, Scott, because they both were in charge when I did the theater, and the theater took 7 years. So tax credits are only good for 2 years.
Right.
So they approved it, and then Paulie the Clown and Ludlow had our obstacles, and I could prove it, so they extended for 2 years. Then we hit more obstacles. They extended it. Then we hit more. So they extended my 2 years 3 times, which is pretty unheard of. But it was a $60,000 tax credit. It wasn't like, now the state is amazing. They have up to $100 million that they can approve. Then they only have like $5 million a year. So my $60,000, they could lead it on. But it all ended up actually transpiring. I sold it to Stockyards Bank for 85 cents on the dollar because I got the whole thing done. Yeah. But at the last minute, in Washington, D.C., they're like, well, we saw you took the ceiling out. We think the ceiling needs to go back in there. And I said, well, here's a couple problems. Number one, there was all this mold growing up in the ceiling, so that's why I took it out. Yeah. Number two, here's all the trapeze that we have to attach there. And number three, if I have to get Congressman Massey involved, like his ombudsman is happy to, so he's not a big fan of historic preservation, but he's a big fan of making a mess about stuff. So like the next day they called your tax credits have been approved. It's just typical government. Yeah. But
what kind of ceiling was in it before?
No, it was well, this was funny. This was, I think, before you were in town, but there was a concrete. So when I bought it in 2009, there were 2 holes in the roof. Because there were holes in the roof, all the lead-based paint was peeling like crazy. Yeah. And then they had it was almost like cotton kind of fiber insulation that was between. So they had the roof, then you had this ceiling, and the ceiling was tied down with every 3 to 5 feet there'd be a 1/4 inch tie down. And what it was steel lath, and then a wood form. They poured the concrete. When the concrete dried, they pulled the wood out. So it was a concrete ceiling.
Yeah, real thin ass shit.
But that was too.
Wow.
But
yeah.
So I had my permit for demo, and I did the demo permit myself. So I was between the roof and the ceiling with my bolt cutters, with my rappelling gear attached to the ceiling because there's the stringers there. So of course I made a video of it. Of course Ronnie Jones complained. Of course the state EPA comes and shuts me down.
Why? Because they thought asbestos or something was in it?
And this was when I was fighting with the city over the Huntington Bank deal. I had no relationship, it was Miss Chamberlain, it was a mess. But when the Ludlow Fire Department, when it was a volunteer department, Kenny and Chief Stewart, they all came and they did the demolition. I don't know if you know this, but the fire department, all the inside. Yeah. But not the ceiling.
I heard they did some kind of demolition.
So it was cool. It was we named each other additionally insured. I paid for the dumpsters. They had a phase 1 environmental to make sure that nobody was going to get sick. But I didn't have it on file, so I had to get another phase 1. But I knew that there was no asbestos because it was built before asbestos.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I still had to get 40 Ziploc bags, send it off. We prove. Yeah. But anyway, it's just been
So did the ceiling come out one big chunk or no?
Oh, I did. I said it to music, da 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 da, and I put it in slow mo. You could see the whole ceiling go.
And fall. Shit.
I put all the tanks underneath that wooden superstructure.
Yeah.
And when I had my real estate license when I lived in Manhattan, in the late 90s. So that's how I learned about historic preservation. So I knew that PDS was giving me a hard time about the elevator. I'm I don't need an elevator. But I still have an ADA bathroom on the balcony.
They said they need an elevator on that theater?
If I didn't get on the registry, I would have to put an elevator.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, it's just interesting because in the state, they know that it took me 7 years, and I kind of can't believe that I got it done, but I got it done. Yeah. So now, in the pandemic, I spent about $25,000 working on the rezoning and working on all the big blue, and I didn't get anywhere. Yeah. You helped me on it, thank you. We just didn't get where we need to get, but go ahead. Popular.
That's fine. People leaving me messages. It never ends. Need this one. should shut up.
But down there, I'll get it on the registry. The people that are the people that retired, they're two young knuckleheads. They didn't know what they were doing. Now it's Marty and Mike, the same guys that were in charge of the theater. They're now back in charge. And it's cool because of like they took my phone. But it sits outside the historical boundaries of the city.
Yeah.
But because it was built in 1915 and it hasn't been really touched.
Yeah.
And it's going to basically be like they had tanks of propane and it's going to be tanks of booze in there. So they like that it's the same.
Same idea.
I can't put solar panels on. I mean, there's things I can't do. I mean, everyone
They
wants
won't
to
even
tell
let
you.
you do solar panels, even though.
Like I was going to do, like in my plans, the design was going to be like take down that building that needs to be taken down, which whatever. But I was going to put solar there to just have a sun. Like, you can't do that. Fine. It's like, what?
You think they would nowadays, though, let you do solar just for the whole green earth bullshit?
It's all who's in whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, you probably aren't likely to build. I'm like,
Would they not let you put them up on those beam things? Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's what they.
That's
what the rendering had.
The awning thing?
Yeah.
They won't let you do that on the property if you do the awning kind of shit? Huh. I mean, I kind of could see if it'd say, no, don't attach it to the building. I don't know. Whatever.
It's just like anything. Who's in charge?
Yeah.
I mean, if I can get. What is cool though is like Ron Lantry sold his property, right?
Did he sell that completely? Because I know I always wondered if he sold it or if he still.
I know the owners of it. They're neat people.
Did you know you had somebody in your lot? As a matter of fact, and I was just thinking of this. The blue building. I drove by the Lantrys. I was coming back up through Covington. Come up by Lantrys. There's a guy in your fence in the back, and I see him. He just nods at me. I was like, "Who the fuck is skinny dude?"
Just now, recently?
About an hour ago.
Yeah.
We
were cleaning.
Oh, okay.
Skinny.
Yeah. I didn't think about it until you just said that. I was driving by. I was like, and I thought he looked kind of familiar.
Because we're working on it. We're like we're doing.
That ain't the fire guy, is it?
Yeah. Fire spinning guy.
Yeah.
Neil.
That ain't him. But he was a tall motherfucker.
Yeah. I got Paul Skinny.
Yeah.
Neil, the fire guy. He was my white African. You like that? That's diversity and inclusion.
Was he
when you
African?
got a white African on staff.
Was he African? Actually,
he's from South Africa.
Was he? Oh,
he was born in South Africa. White African.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
No, so I'm working on that is what we do have. How we doing?
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good.
You're good.
We're just shooting.
Parents, you appreciate that
No, absolutely.
kids slow things down sometimes.
Yeah, we're just shooting the shit about everything
Yeah?
till you get here.
Yes.
I'm gonna let you guys lead it. I'm just here to input if you need it.
Yeah, so, I mean, Paul, we talked a couple weeks ago. Obviously, I'm willing to work with you on this.
Thank you.
But I told you then, gonna reiterate, just needs some sort of assurances, man. I believe you when you tell me what's gonna get done. I just need assurances. And you understand that.
I appreciate it. I would, and my biggest thing is really like, all I can say is I've done the work. I've done the work down the road. At Oak and Davies for 10 years, I had a deed restriction that I had to get the city's permission for anyone I wanted to do the work with. So I paid anyway. What the assurance is.
What are the parts of the deed restriction that keep getting in the way?
Nothing. The 10 years is over. So as far as I'm concerned, the deed restriction is the lawsuit is a problem. So that right now is hamstrung. Maybe you can offer some. You're the guy you might have a front row seat to why it happened, or we don't have to get into why it happened. But like for me, for 10 years, for 8 of them, I was at odds with the city no matter what. So I didn't really get permission to do anything other than what I could do, which was develop the theater space. And that was a challenge. But we got it done. And it's to code, and the taxes are paid, and it's been a reasonable economic driver. I love the cabin fevers coming, etc. So the theater, I had no restrictions. I've got almost 400 investors. I brought everything up to code. I did everything I had to do. I tried to unwind my ownership of the brewery this time last year in position to be able to develop Oak and Davies. And
May 20th, 3 days before my 10 years was over, I was served with papers from the city that I was under lawsuit.
Do you want me to tell you how that
Please.
came up?
So
So, probably, let's just say 9 months before your deed was over. 8-9 months before that, there were several people calling, wanting to buy that property. So that is how the whole conversation came up. Talking to different people, hey, we want to buy this building, who owns the building? We said, well, technically it's under a deed right now. It's got a 10-year deed. Paul Miller has 10 years to do it. So the conversation came up, well, then what happens? And that was a conversation council and mayor at the time. If it doesn't get developed, what's going on with this property? So you had 10 years to get it. Lawyers and everybody said, well, if he hasn't developed it and done whatever in 10 years, he's voided the contract. So the property goes back into the city's hands. Said, okay. So I think our attorneys or somebody did a deed search or did whatever, found out you had 2 loans or 2 mortgages or whatever against the building for $200,000, $100,000
George,
toward
Bank,
the
that's
thing, right? Our attorneys and the mayor said, well, you can't do that, or legally it wasn't supposed to be done. And I'll tell you the reason they said it wasn't supposed to be done was the sentence. Well, here, I have it highlighted. It says, so long as the guarantee occupies the property and makes no effort to sell or otherwise transfer any of guarantee's interests in such property for a period of 10 years from the date of this deed without the prior written consent of the grantor. So they say this sentence in this area here says that the banks had no legal right to give you that money against that property because the conditions where you do X, Y, and Z in 10 years. So the fact that you didn't do it, they say the contract's now voided, the property goes back to the city can then sell it for a profit. So that's how the whole conversation came up, was people wanting to buy the property. So then they said, well, that property is being dilapidated, we can make money on it, what's happening with it? So they said, well, you have to give him until 10 years or up to 10 years or whatever. And then the decision was made by council and mayor to say, we want the property back. And the only reason you got served is because of the loans. So they had to serve you and the bank saying, those loans aren't ours. They're not the city's responsibility. Because right now, technically the building is still the city's property, but now has 2 loans against it. And they're saying the loans are yours, not the city's. That's how it came about.
all right. Can I? So my rebuttal or my counter to this is that I have the deed, so the city doesn't have the deed. I mean, it's in our name. For 10 years, I've paid the property taxes on it. The state of Kentucky countersued the city of Ludlow and provided 2 letters of reference that says, in support of the loans. And here's the biggest challenge is that all of this was done by a past administration that neither of you have anything to do. So that's where I'm like, look, you're just carrying it. It's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility. All right. Like I bought it for 10 years though, I'm dealing with, my lawyer. We've proven out that we paid, it's had electric run into it. I've paid taxes paid. I've had it insured. I put a new roof on the thing. I got rid of all the mold and the asbestos. So the only way that I could get the money from the state of Kentucky Department of Tourism was if I did all the work. So I did all of the work. And when I started the work, we were already under conflict because I was trying to buy the Huntington Bank. And the city was trying to buy it, and Ronnie Jones was trying to buy it. And all through this process, my power was disconnected at the theater. I've run into all these other minefields on this side of Elm Street. All the while, utilizing that to the best of my ability, which was storing costumes in it and stabilizing it. Because if I did not put the new roof on the thing, it was going to fall apart. And I paid my property taxes on it for 10 years to Kenton County and to the city of Ludlow. And with the tension and the problems and the conflicts between Ludlow, I was not about to go to Ludlow and say, hey, I need help, or help, will this person redevelop it with me? The answer was no consistently. No, I can't have a tasting room. No, I can't have outdoor dining. So like everything that I asked for was a no. So I knew that at my 10-year deed restriction was over, I was going to be able to develop the property like I have my property that I had no restrictions on. I mean, I've got almost 400 investors in Ludlow that have invested in the conglomerate, in the circus brewery educational situation. So, it would have been nice to have a call from the city and say, hey, let's talk about this. So we're not in a lawsuit. We can go and take it to the court of public opinion, etc. But like, I have paid the taxes. It has electric on. Like, I've done what I can do with the limited dollars, and it doesn't say I can't borrow money against it because the city wrote me the letters. I got one from Ms. Chamberlain and one from the past mayor Wynn supporting the tourism development loan for that building. So, again, those have been submitted to count to as part of the discovery process. So it can be a long, drawn out thing, or we can just, my assurance is, help me do help me get outdoor weddings here, help me make money in Ludlow, and I will make money in Ludlow. And that is what I've done for 13 years in Ludlow, no matter who's in office or who's in charge.
Let me speak both sides. I want to tell you from both ends. Okay, so the one, let's just say that you say everybody agrees right now, just take the building, do what you're going to do, whatever. The other thing we're going to run into is if that building belonged to anyone but you or the city's interest or anything, we would have to cite the shit out of it. Like it's just not, it's not even up to code. It's not up to this. It's not like the violations on it would be bad. So if we treat you like every other person in the city, and we treated it, and we started just citing on the violations of the property, the outdoors of it, not to mention maybe the sprinkler system. If we do that, then what happens is we start citing you. You're going to say, oh, that's bullshit, I shouldn't be cited, right? And then they're going to keep compounding because you're not going to want to pay them. Then it's going to get liens against it, and then the city will file for foreclosure. If we treat it, and I'm just saying not, if we do you a favor and say, fuck it, we ain't going to do it, that's between you guys. But if the city allows you to keep it and they don't go through this argument, and people get on our ass and say, that building right there, you're citing us and my business and my whatever, and you're now not citing that business, that church, whatever. You're not doing it. We have to cite it if those things occur. So then it's back to the city going, what's going on? So if we follow the rule of the law, then it puts it back on me, technically. If we cite you, it'll compound. It'll keep coming. And just for simple math, I'll tell you, I wrote it down because I was like, holy shit. Where did I put that? It's up on this notebook. Jesus, I have two reading books. Just to give you an idea, on the violations that are on that building now, because I was just curious, I said, Jamie, if you were to cite that building, there's $2,800 in citations. After you did that, we gave you notices and said, hey, you have X amount of days to fix it, 30, whatever. It would be about $2,800 in violations. After in week 2, it compounds up to $3,500. And according to how that's written, the ordinance, it would keep compounding. And what's the odds you're going to get those things fixed in a reasonable time? So that I don't want it to, whatever happens, if you say, yes, you can have that building, whatever, you got to understand that if once people know you have that building, we've washed our hands of it, there's going to be some people not happy. And then it comes back to us to go, okay, we do have to cite on the broken windows, the whatever stuff. And that's the other flip side that we got to consider. No matter what happens, that is a consideration on our end, just so we're clear on it. Sorry.
No, not sorry at all. I have been resource poor in that situation. Okay, so when I first of all, I didn't know anything about rezoning when I bought it for $1. So let's just say I've learned a lot. I could pay tuition to go to a school and get a MBA, or I could be in these learning experiences and opportunities. So having it zoned for a circus school, as was intended, is going to cost a whole lot of money still. Okay, and I've spent a whole lot of money trying to get that rezoned, and I still can't get that accomplished. And that is probably my biggest request from Fisher and you or whatever. Looking at Big Blue. But I know that being zoned residential, it's residential. Having it be a school, I need to go spend a lot of money. We need to redo. Da 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 da.
Yeah, it was a bad plan from the get-go.
Well, again. Yeah,
the city should have never done it.
10 years ago, though, when there were a lot of challenges in the city, I'm down in the basement. The police chief was like, "Here's a beer license," and it all started like, so I have a bunch of kids from after school programs, and I don't want beer in a building, in my building. And like, well, you can do after school program here, and so like that's how it all transpired.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have no doubt. Yeah.
you know, and then at the end, 10 years ago, there was not a lot going on in Ludlow, so it was an easy thing to move. We've had a lot of obstacles, and certainly some of them have been my making. All right, I'm big, I'm loud, I'm stupid. I've made a lot of good things.
Why don't you just want to sell that and walk away from it? Let's say that somebody could buy it for $250 right now. You settle out your loans. There's a little bit of a profit or whatever, or just break even, whatever, and walk away. Then you don't have those challenges. You don't have the bullshit, and you can focus just on blue.
Again, it's certainly not off the table. Okay, it's just for me. It's having the follow through on it most of all. Like I have artists that want to buy into the house. Artists want places to train, all the grants, all the things that I've been working towards. Okay, like having a space for people to practice circus and then perform at circus is what I'm interested in most of all. I'd much rather sell the brewery for $1 than do that. Like I don't want to make beer. Like that's what I'm most passionate about is the circus side of things.
Question on those ones. So, okay, you walked me through it the other day. Obviously, the one piece, the house for lack of a better term that's attached, would stay residential. You're wanting essentially a gym. That's what I heard in that conversation. A gym, a place to practice.
Yeah.
Exercise,
Live workspace, whatever.
But I would assume it would be zoned similar to a gym.
Yeah, but
right?
it wouldn't. It would still be rezoned.
That's what I'm saying. We're still going to have to go through a rezoning process on that portion of the building, right?
Why? I mean, if it's zoned residential, people just live there.
Well, if they're only living there, but if you're doing training and there's like a gym, like if it's a gym, then it has to be recreational entertainment.
This would just be. It won't be open for the public. Okay, for me right now. I mean, like I'm looking at. For me to get things accomplished, most of all, is like leave the rezoning for the winery to mow and the weddings to like it's zoned residential. Have it be live workspace where it's not work. Like we're not advertising for massage classes. There's no Zumba going on.
Would that be similar to where like if I built a gym in my house?
I guess as long as you're not running it as a business, and I think you're fine. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're not bringing in
the
customers
residential
to,
piece of it's the quick business. Okay.
I just look at it like the Chome down the street, essentially, right? I mean, it's a guy's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honest question: Did you cut the sprinkler system out of that building, or parts of it, or remove some of it, or because I know that was a concern too, which could be a major problem.
There is the sprinkler system. I mean, it was dilapidated. I mean, there were 2 8-foot holes on the roof. There was no sprinkler system when I bought it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I know this conversation came up a while ago. I mean, probably a year and a half ago, and Mike brought it up, and he says, "Yeah, if that's because supposedly there's laws about once it's there, you're not allowed to adjust it, change it, whatever. And once you do, sometimes they can make. Once you do, the state can make you bring it up to the standard of today and check like." Like if you did it, like if you went through the right process and didn't do shit, suppose there's ways around it. But if you changed it, even if you want to turn it residential, it can shut the whole thing down from happening. So he even said that even if you wanted to turn that residential, there's a chance right now that you would have to provide a brand new sprinkler system, which is he said a new one for the building like that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And
well, when it was Durobag, when it was an office building,
yeah.
You needed a sprinkler system. Yeah. Okay? And when it fell into disrepair and it became the property of Ludlow, and there were 2 8-foot holes in the roof and the sprinkler system fell out, that is whatever.
Right.
I mean, okay?
Yeah.
Because
I know.
I can show you where it was, I can show you the thing, but the well didn't work. It wasn't operational at all.
Right.
And it was the city of Ludlow's.
I'm foreseeing problems. That's my whole thing. That's all I do in policing. That's all I do is I'm just foreseeing an issue upon an issue upon an issue upon an issue. Now I'm not.
If it's residential, you don't need a sprinkler system.
But if there's one in the building, there's a whole rule you have to play. That's not me. That's the fire marshals and the PDS, and you know how PDS and everybody else is. There's rules you have to about taking it out and replacing it. So I just don't want anybody to be surprised because that conversation's been brought up already once. by
Well,
by
when
them.
he shut down my illegal pizza oven, quote unquote, he said he could be fining me tens of thousands of dollars for that, and I literally said, I said, let's go. So for me, it doesn't make any sense to be threatened, right? So he said in my parking lot, there's body camera footage to prove it. I mean, we need to be either.
But you did have a fire in the back of your place that almost caught your building on fire.
Scott, a chief. I mean, I it. And when I talked to my insurance agent, I'm like, hey, can we investigate this? Like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me that no one, like, it was like, I know.
But it did happen after the conversation. So we try to weigh on safety and whatever. And if there's some weird fire law or PDS says something, I don't know. If that's what they say, then we got to go that direction. I just want you guys to be aware that it is a possibility, since it was brought up by him and PDS a year and a half ago. It is something that could happen. I guess the question is this, Paul, because I know I kind of know what he wants, and I have a feeling I know what your opinion on it is. So I think what Chris wants and the city wants when he talks about his assurances is that any year the building doesn't look like it is. That there's not excuses where you're dumping the money in blue or whatever, and you say, I haven't had the money, or I couldn't, or whatever tax credits or whatever grants weren't available. Maybe they weren't available. So it sits the same, and nothing's happened. So the assurances, I think he's saying something in writing, saying the assurances. I don't think you're willing to give something in writing because you don't believe the city has any right to the building.
No, I if I could unwind it, I would unwind it. Okay, like that's just the thing. Do I have enough equity? There's like altogether in Ludlow, what I'm working to leverage is 38,000 square feet. Okay, and I'm dealing with.
You're talking about down here, right?
I'm talking about like globally. All right, I'm just saying like from the theater and Big Blue and so Oak and Davies and this property and the theater comes out to 38,000 square feet. Okay, and I'm working with Heritage Bank on that situation. PACE is a funding group, and now what this does, PACE, it gets attached to a property tax assessment for clean energy is what PACE stands for, and they'll provide money up front to do it. So that is a way where I don't have to get a bank, I don't have to get a bunch of investors, I can get Big Blue done, and they want about $1 million project. So part of this strategy that I'm working on is, hey, put insulation in the theater, because there's no insulation there, have a bulk of it, have that happen, and just get the assurances that I need that I'm not going to have a sprinkler issue or a PDS or a fire, because it's just going to be residential. It's not going to be residential condominiums. It's not going to be, it's just going to be, we're not going to set up a home gym. We're not going to have Zumba classes. We're not going to do after school programming for kids. It's just literally going to be
when
people.
I say home gym, Paul, I just meant that as an example of, that's not something, if I did that in my house, I wouldn't need a zoning change.
Right.
And we're not going to know, like if you say it's residential or whatever, we're not going to know until we have a defined use of what it actually is. We know what it was going to be, but now what it is. And then get with PDS, fire marshals, whoever, and say, what is the damage? What is does it really need, or can they just say, no, for that use, it can all be gutted right now and with no penalties, no fines. I don't want to say something here today.
Agreed.
That later you go.
We're trying to solve some things here. No, nothing here.
That's the tricky thing for me, Paul, because as much as I do want this to happen for you, I can't say that they're not going to come in and say you do need the sprinkler system. Even though what I'm hearing you say is completely reasonable, I can't make that guarantee, and I can't exactly tell them to go pound salt.
Absolutely.
So
I guess that's the assurance I need from the power base is that that we can have it be. So
what would your timeline look like if you were to make it residential? Just like you're saying, and let's just say for argument's sake, there was no hiccups. The sprinkler system wasn't an issue. You could get somebody in there working, and it just went kind of flawlessly without any major hiccups, unforeseen, whatever. What is your idea of having it livable, or I don't even call it livable. I say close to finished, or you know what I mean? I like to use the word white boxed. A building when it's white boxed means that it's got plumbing, electric, drywall. It may not have floors. It may not have all the finishing touches, but white boxed.
I can get this. I can get something to solve the stainless windows in there. I can have all the vines torn off it. I can have some landscaping. I can have the house occupied within a year. People will be like living in that house. It has a kitchen. You're happy to when you find the time you're busy, but we can walk through having that house be like live workspace for people to be here is something that can happen within a year. Absolutely. And it's just a house. And or it could be called, no, Paul, it used to be an office and there was a sprinkler that ran between them. So this is my catch-22 and the assurances I need that it's just going to be, you know, because the house itself, all right, you know, if I fixed up the house, I could sell the house and settle all the debt. I mean, there's so many ways to look at taking care of it. But having people live, there's basically 6 bedrooms in the house, 2 shared bathrooms, one on the first floor, one on the second floor, and then a kitchen that we can develop. And I have people that want to buy into the like living there. They're not renting. I don't need rental license for them. They're going to own their little space is the goal. I wrote a grant for the National Endowment for the Arts, working with the city and with South Bank partners a long time ago. And it'd be great to try and look at something like that again because, you know, that house, but it could be catch-22. It could say, well, they used to have a sprinkler and da-da-da-da. So, like, that's the assurances I need because I can't sell it to anybody if I know that it's not going to...
And I do feel like we're going in circles a little bit because I can't guarantee
Yeah.
that PDS isn't going to come in and say it needs sprinklers.
And what happens if we get to a point, I mean, on let's just say worst case scenario, they say, man, you got $200,000-$300,000 worth of stuff to put in this building to make it even whatever you wanted it to be. What do you do with it? If they told you, man, it's $200,000 just to put a stick of wood in this thing, do you walk away? What do you?
Here's the predicament that I'm in because we're in a lawsuit. You know, it's like no, it's bring up all the past. It's countersue and prove that this and make a big, really big, stupid mess. It's like because that is fine because.
No, I'm saying if we walked away and give it to you right now, let's just say we said, go on, do what you want to do with it. And PDS and everybody else says, no, you have to put all this work, $200,000 of sprinklers and all that stuff. It's yours. It's yours. And
again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an architect. But from a residential side of things, you don't need sprinklers in a residential side. Okay? And when the city owned it, is when they had the holes in the roof and the sprinkler system fell into disrepair. So
you're banking on it not happening.
I don't know.
Not needing it.
I'm not. I have no idea because everything that I've thought from PDS has not transpired. Okay.
That's why I'm saying.
You help me. You know, get the marquee up. I mean, what's it easy? So,
I know. It's
but
all
PDS ultimately, you out the city of Ludlow outranks PDS. They were against
not on the building and not on the internal. That's the stuff we don't. Like
again, I don't understand all the ins and outs.
Yeah, all the hood systems and the electrical and the building. That's the part we can't help you with.
But a hood, like that's my kitchen.
Right.
That's a hood.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but again,
how many sprinklers it's got to have? We don't have no say on any of that. So even the building, if they say it has to have sprinklers, we can't help you. There's no going backwards.
To me, what I'm hearing, our immediate next step, and we can continue this conversation. Our immediate next steps out of this are going to have to be someone with the actual authority to say yes or no on these sprinklers needs to be brought in and say yes or no on these sprinklers.
Well, and then the other question is,
would you agree with that or no?
It really is. I can talk to my architect and look exactly at what I believe that it is. If it is residential, you know, all these, you know, Matt Brock can maybe tell us, right? You know, again, I don't really know, like, but a residential house, like these residential projects that are in town, they're residential, okay? You know, you don't need a sprinkler, you don't need a this, you don't need a that. So it really is just down to like whoever the adjudicating authority, what they're going to call it. Right now, if I wanted to move it into a church or a higher education, like that is a R2 or whatever, RJ or something like that, that would be a process to do that. But right now, it is in the residential zone and it's just a residential structure. But that's the assurance I need that I can develop it without a situation. So
I guess, would you be open, because I mean, I don't know what his thought process, if you don't take it back to council since they're the ones who voted to do it, or if he's just going to make the decision, that's between them. But would you be open to a contractual agreement that you're going to have that house livable and the outside to no code violations, blah, 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 in 1 year's time, or that you give it back to the city and you take over your loans? Would you be open to do that so it satisfies the city's end along with your end?
happy to look at it and consider. I mean, for me, the biggest thing, a bigger leveraging point is, making money, being able to do weddings outside at Big Blue, because that's the revenue generation that I can pull together. So without one, and what I've been able to do is get the theater operational, bring on the investors, and keep payments on that thing. So like, I'm current with everybody. I mean, I have a big mess I have to undo with Home Savings Bank and with the state because the city didn't come at me and we talk about this. Like, it's expensive. It's in a lawsuit. So those are already expenses that I have to figure out and solve that I wasn't planning on solving. That is a big distraction, is a big waste of time. And really, I am, because I'm obligated to a lot of folks here, of different constituents than you have, which I understand your perspectives completely. People want to buy it. Who is it? I get that. But, for me, it's more of a being able to generate revenue in Ludlow, which I have a solid track record, and taking old empty buildings and doing something with it. Like, I'm good at that. I have done that. And that is my assurance. And, whatever, a year, I need to be able to get the Storm Water Easement to run right smack dab through that to make Fisher happy, and be able to try and do outdoor weddings there with portlets so I can make some money down there. Because what I can't do is go on another 3 years raising dollars from people and bleeding dollars, because that's what I've essentially happened. And instead of engaging or fighting the city over stuff, I just bought another building, raised more money, started a new business. I'm tired of doing that. I can't keep doing it. I don't want to. I want to be able to say, hey, we're all going to work together globally on this and this and this. And that is where ultimately my hands are the biggest tied up right now, because Fisher could give me $1 million for the stormwater easement, and I could spend $1 million fighting the city over that building. Yeah. So that's my biggest problem. It's like,
well, and the city, and when I say city, I mean I don't want to be a part of a lawsuit that drags out. I just don't. I don't want to do it. It's exhausting.
Yes.
So, and I know the city, and I'm talking about them now, wants you to make money. They want the buildings to look good. They want that's the biggest. I mean, I want you to make money because I have a business in the city. The more money you make, the more money I make, blah, 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 right? The better it is for everybody. But Oak and Davies is probably the biggest complaint about building in this whole city. It is the one property that we get the most complaints on, that we shield you and everybody else from, because we had an ownership in it or had a agreement. So we were able to buff it. So that's
give me if I could take the list and give me a month before I start finding me, I can work on solving that. Because like for me, like that's I don't want the stuff hanging over me that says, Paul, today we can start finding you and every day it's going to get to be further. I don't feel good about that. But I realize that if that's how it's interpreted and that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. Well,
that's what we don't want to happen. That's like for me, I don't want to do it. And like me and Jamie were talking about this yesterday. Some people don't even know what they can be fined for. So they don't even understand, or you open a business, you don't know that you're supposed to get a permit for this. Most people don't know that shit, unless they call a friend and ask. So what we're trying to be better at on our end is telling people, hey, I know you're going to do this. You need to check on this. Don't fuck that up, because that's what's going to cost you money. And before you throw up that sign, we're trying to be better up here about it. And that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. And that's why I had him tell me how much it would cost. So that way, if it did get flipped to you.
So Shannon, the woman that owns the shotgun house that's next to it, all right? Like, she's on Facebook. She's a friend of mine. Yeah, at Oak and Davis. So she complained that there were some bugs and the vines were on that side. So the next day, I got up, climbed off, and pulled all the vines off, all right? And I wasn't going to have somebody tear off the gutters on the other side. And it was really something where, honest, I've been trying to untangle and unwind myself from the brewery so I could just completely focus on that. And then when the lawsuit happened, I was just like, I didn't touch it. I wanted to be able to demonstrate clean and clearly that I can get some stuff done. So, I'm happy to.
Here's where I sit, and Scott has kind of said a lot of this. So you keep bringing up the easement, and part of why you're bringing up the easement is it's something that gives you leverage in this situation. If I'm misinterpreting, tell me I'm misinterpreting. But you do have some leverage because of that, right?
I have interested parties in, complaining about whatever, and I have a need to get the brewery out of my theater because we are hamstrung there. The canning line, like, we cannot produce enough beer. Like, I'm in a pickle, right?
Sure.
I got one building, I got 2 buildings. I got 2 buildings that work, and I got 10,000 square feet that works, another 20,000 square feet that does not work, right? So I need to get the brewery out of the theater down there. Mo's going to make wine in the basement, which allows me to get it up to code, pass my PDS, get everything past flying colors so that we can operate there and move the brewery down there.
So I bring up the leverage thing, and I bring up the word leverage because in this situation, the only leverage that I currently have with what I've inherited, which you noted, I've inherited this. The only leverage that I currently have is this lawsuit and the past deed that the lawsuit is over. If I just give this to you without any sort of contract, anything in writing, I've just given away the one chip that I have. Knowing that this is the building that is getting complained about, that people do make comments about it and things. If I want to get things done, if I want to get things fixed, up to code, looking more presentable, but then I give away my only leverage to make that happen, to make it look like we want it all to look, like you would want it to look when you get this up and running. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That's kind of where I'm at with the contract. If I just give it away and say, here you go, man, run with it, do whatever the hell you want, but I'm giving away any leverage whatsoever to assure that we're getting this building where we want it to be. Otherwise, we get into, well, now we're doing all these citations and stuff. I'm not trying to cost you money. You know, I don't want to take any money out of your pocket. I want you to make more money. We all make more money when you make more money. So that's where I'm at.
No,
But as I've said from the start, where I want this to get, I want this to get to everything you're saying you want to do there. And it being done and complete, and we're there.
Well, again, you know, it for me, my challenge is that outside of town, the strings that are pulled, okay, that I don't know, that I don't understand, all right, like with this situation with tourism, because you sued me and tourism, like I had everything fine with tourism. You know, I can go to Home Savings Bank, speak with Mike, who is the bank president, for a little while until Stephanie takes over, which is in the next month. He's be on the board, but I said, Mike, you know, what happens here? He's like, well, your court, you know, our lawyer fees will just get added onto your bank loan. So I'm like, all right, that a couple $100 more, that's fine. I don't know how to unwind this with the Kentucky Department of Revenue and with the Kentucky Department of Tourism. Now, the guy who I did the tourism development loan with on that 10 years ago is dead. Okay, so and when we had our problems in Ludlow, which was, you know, police body camera footage, all that crap with the past administration that you're just in the middle of, okay, you know, difficult. But they said, Paul, you know, we're not going to worry about the tourism loan. Just keep throwing parties in Ludlow. What you're doing is great, because they love that people from Ohio come across the river, and I can send them a report. And so, like, and I brought the argument of, like, because they also funded the Creation Museum and Noah's Ark Park. So dollar for dollar.
It's a different crowd in the theater, you know, response, and that's awesome.
So I mean, like, I'm just in, like, gigantic pickles, you know? So, like, no matter what we assure each other or not, it still doesn't matter. I can deal with Mike, but revenue and tourism, like, I don't know if I go down. I don't even know how to unmess that up. So, you know, Fisher wants to remove the storm water. I don't want it to run through where it's running through right now. You know, they've offered more money. They want to get it done. And I'm like, look, until I know that I'm not going to, now, until all the mines are cleared from the minefield, I can't really do anything in Ludlow. So
once the lawsuit's gone, I'm confused where the pickle still is with tourism. Explain that to me, please.
Well, because tourism is countersuing the city, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a. It's a countersuit in as much as they're saying, hey, we don't owe you shit.
Yeah.
We have a.
They have an interest
in
the
deed in the property itself, because they have an interest in it.
So the impression I've been under all along is if we
drop
dropped
our
it from
loan,
our end, they would drop theirs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If we drop ours, those two will fade away. Those will go away, and there should be there's no attorney's fees that you would incur at all from those two people.
again, I have a lot of dancing I have to do because the tour. It was Bashir the first. Now we're the Bashir the second. There's a Bevan in between anyway. So I just have to.
All right, let me ask you this, because obviously, I'm not the smartest person, so we'd have to talk to the attorney just to make sure.
Right.
But if we did a 1-year contract, and this in a nutshell, just roughly, like I said, I'm not an attorney, that said the city is going to drop the current lawsuit based on this, right, on whatever the wordage was, however they have it. They're going to drop this current lawsuit based on blah, blah, blah. Based on the new discussions, you were given 12 months or whatever that time frame is to get the building up to external code, whatever, and to whatever conditions we agree on. And we're going to have to talk to PDS first, just so we know. And we'll talk to PDS and PDS says, literally, you can tear all the plumbing out. And this is what white box looks like, or even maybe not even nothing on the church. And if you guys think it should just be on that house or that whatever the fuck that is. So looking good on the outside and the house in 12 months, then the property's completely, and there will be no future lawsuits, blah, blah, blah. If not, you'd return it back to the city, and however that wordage goes after that. Would you do that? And that gives you a year to get it to the standard. Which technically, shouldn't be a fucking problem. To get that on the outside and that one side or get it up, and it shouldn't be a problem in my opinion, if you don't have the weird shit that pops up. If there's no secretive fucking sprinkler systems and all that shit.
I'm happy to make this work. I have electric on. I have to put some water to it. My plumbing, it's.
But it would pass.
Ready to go.
Is it livable?
I believe I can pull it together. All right,
12 months is a long time. So
I
don't think it's.
I would ask. My counter would be in a positive way that within 12 months, because I know the stormwater easement will be over and through there.
Yeah.
That I have. A 12 or an 18-month permission to do an outdoor tent and outdoor events down at Big Blue, so that I can make the money to do it. So that is the quid pro quo, if you will. I will say, yeah, I'll do it in a year, I'll do it in 18 months, and however long the period that within the time that it takes them to run the stormwater easement through there, I can landscape that backyard, make it look nice.
What was the deal? Because I don't remember. Mm-hmm. What was the problem with the tent, the outdoor toilets? Was that a zoning thing? I don't remember why that was.
I learned from setting up my tent at the swim club. All right, it's a PDS. So right now, I can't do it because it's too much. It's too much of a slope. All right.
Over here.
So I would spend some of the stormwater easement dollars stabilizing it and putting some outdoor landscaping in, and basically having the backyard of that, because when they run the stormwater easement through the middle there, they got to tear down a whole bunch of trees, tear down some fence, they got to do a bunch of stuff. And I'm not going to be able to set up shop and do a wedding tomorrow, okay? It'll take 6 months, a year, whatever. But in an 18-month timeline, the stormwater easement will be done. If I'm working with the city in some great positive ways, we could figure out the parking. It would be for 200 people, not for the 400 people that we want. So we would come up with a part, something that would make sense there. And it's just really a positive thing, because then I can go to my investors. I say, well, we'll have the dollars from that to be able to do.
But what was the reason for what was PDS's? I don't remember what the reasoning was. You can't have a tent.
The tent is fine. The city needs to say it's okay, and the PDS comes and inspects it. Is all that needs to happen.
But the biggest hiccup to your whole thing is the parking.
Well, I know that I can't get the right. It will take a while to get the waterfront development rezoning thing, but when we were talking about this briefly before you got here, Chris, but with Lantry selling that property, the Maxwell House, and the owners of that, they're really progressive, and they're small investors already. They want to make it rezone waterfront, but if I can get an assurance or get a plan for a year, 18 months, that we can develop the outside, make it look nice, put up a wedding tent, and do outdoor portalets, we would have nobody inside for assembly. We would just have the factory industrial use, which to make beer and make wine there, which is exactly what we did at the theater. I wasn't allowed to have anyone in the theater until we had all the life safety. So I will follow those rules, absolutely. But I'm happy to put some, that would be a positive assurance on my end that I will work with all the powers that be, get the tent that's correct, get the landscape looks nice, and really be able to say yes.
Well, and that would be my question, just because I don't know enough about it, is can we make an assurance? I mean, I'm not against it. I don't give a fuck. But I don't know, can we make the assurance if there's something that we aren't allowed to make the assurance to? Like
We're going to have to find out.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have to check with our people.
Like we may be able
councils.
to say, yeah, the tent's good, the portalets are good, whatever, but we may get shut down by the county and they say, well, you can't tell him to do whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I'm going to say that because I don't want you to walk away and you said we're going to do that.
No. We're going to check with all our parties.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out, because for me, that demonstrates, excuse me, the bury the hatch. Like we're working together to develop things. Fisher makes his thing happen. I get that done. The outside, I can fix the outside. I mean,
and there's got to be something happening on the inside, right? There's got to be some.
Yeah. Well, but that's the only way that the revenue is going to be generated anyway, because nobody.
Whatever, and this is kind of to your point the other day. Whatever the time frame is, it has to be short enough that if you don't, I can go after you and we can get that done before I leave office. Because if shit hits the fan, I'm not leaving it for another mayor.
Yeah. We want to make this work.
Yeah, I believe you're going to do what you say. I'm a trusting person. I'm far more trusty than Scott.
I don't trust nobody, but
nobody would invest in my circus school.
But
okay?
I also want to protect myself.
I don't want to be an impediment with Greg and with this deal, with that deal. I mean, I want to be able to say, hey, here is, maybe give me 48 hours, give me till Monday. I'll write my best case scenario, just send it to you guys, and we can look at it. I'll say, hey, I'll do this and this and this.
We need to. By the way, we need to figure out our messaging here, because similar to how you felt threatened by the potential citations, every time you say that about the easements, I feel threatened.
Yeah. I don't want
and it drives me crazy.
Okay, I don't want to.
I'm just being open with.
What's the address?
I don't want to drive you crazy. Okay, look, please.
What's the address of Big Blue? What is it?
2 through 14 Highway Avenue.
2 through. All right. The fuck.
I think the important thing coming out here today is we have an idea of where we want to go. We have a lot of questions that we need to ask, but the bury the hatchet thing is potentially in motion.
All right, I'm just
and not each other's backs.
No.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm just gonna make some notes. Events with tents up to 200. What do you call them? People. All right, we'll go with people.
Because let me go back on why I'm trying to offer a number like 200, because I don't agree with the zoning from the inside to outside. Right now you're allowed to have half as many people outside as inside, which I think is a weird way to look at it. So
you're allowed to have half as many outside as
inside?
Yes. So if your indoor is 100, you can have 50 outside. That's the way county is right now. Okay. And it may only be Kenton County. If you go to Boone County, it could be 3/4. It could be any fucking.
Again,
cool. Interesting.
You can tear it all in half, but basically, I look at it like it's a plumbing mafia, because the more your toilet count decides how many people you can have in your building.
Yeah, and I think I think a lot of it is justified by washing hands, taking a shit, taking a piss, those kind of things. And then the other aspect is always parking.
So in order to get at the point that I tabled it, because I knew that it was going to go, the vote was not going to happen. All right, I need to come up with 286 parking places.
Which I tried to help you with.
You did, absolutely.
I tried to help you with that.
No, you did. Well, and they didn't understand that I actually have a bus and I could run them.
But I'm looking at her in support of you as well.
Yeah, we tried to get that done.
And again, I don't agree that someone in Bromley and Ellesmere and unincorporated Kenton County gets to decide, plus or minus. And you all did help, and I'm grateful. I look at 200 because that can say we can use this lot, and we have 2 lots that we can use, and that's 2 trips on my bus, and we can solve it. Between valet parking and 200 people, that is, so I'm not asking for 1,000 people tent, right? I'm just trying to come up with something that is like, that I can afford, that we can market, that we can get in front of. And not forever, right? But until the place is zoned for the waterfront development, which will take a long time, which will be expensive, which will blah, 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 blah. I mean, basically, all the work that Scott, you and I did, essentially, that benefited the museum most of all, because they were allowed to convert, right, the railroad yard?
Yeah.
All right, so at least something came positive out of that deal. But anyway, with that, I'll stake out of that deal completely. But I know that I can, with the green lights from the city and PDS to set up a tent there, and they're not going to be crap portalets. They'll be the most expensive PGA Cirque du Soleil portalets you can, because no one else is going to have a wedding there, you know. Mm-hmm. But I will have the big blue building up to code, occupied for an industrial use, because that's the way that I'm going to make money. Selling a house or doing this thing's not going to make us any money, but it has to get done. The exterior to code absolutely makes sense. And Chris brought up the point, well, how do you fund it? I fund it by using this PACE mechanism, which is an arduous paperwork process, but can get approved, and then they can just, the dollars are available. And how I like it, because it covers me if I do get sued, if I have to turn it over to the city. At least the city will have a building, because the PACE bill stays with the building no matter who owns it. Mm-hmm. So if you bought it, or I sell it to Orleans Development or Matt Brock, whoever buys that building, the property tax assessment sits on it. Mm-hmm. So bank likes it, because a bank, if I go bankrupt, it doesn't matter. At least the building is fixed up. It's got the new windows. So it's a pretty good tool that I haven't been able to do it yet, because they need about $1 million project. And if I combine my 38,000 square feet, I've got a $1.5-2 million project. So the dollars come together. But I can't do any of that with the lawsuit, etc. But that is how I can accomplish it.
Here's what I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do next week. That way we're all on the same page. So first, I'm going to start with PDS. I'll start with PDS first, and I'll focus on Big Blue, to see what it would take, what the requirements are, what the restrictions are, to have an event with a large circus tent, up to 200 people out on an outdoor space, and what would that parking requirement be, and what the city has the ability to waive, and what we don't have the ability to waive. All right, so that's...
Can I maybe just
yeah.
I want it to be like a nice event tent, not a circus tent, okay? At one point I wanted to put a circus tent on there, but that's going to be a lot harder to get approved with PDS, because they're going to be like, what the hell kind of tent is? I'm talking about like a tent that they set up at any country club. Yeah. They're called permanent vinyl buildings, if you will. All right.
I put event in
event tent. Just sorry. I just.
No.
If they say circus tent, they're going. What the hell? I know. Okay. Yeah. Just sign her up.
So I'll get the answers on that to see what promises
or
full expectations. So when that easement is done, we'll know. Hey, you can only have 4 portalets or 22 or whatever the fuck that number is.
Right.
On Oak and Davies, I'll talk to the attorneys, have them draw up something, then you can have your attorney or whoever the fuck or whatever look at. And on that one, it'll pretty much, like I said earlier, 12 months to make the apartment or the livable space generating revenue for yourself. So it's livable and generating revenue within 12 months. No outdoor violations on the building, and all disrepair is in repaired, whether it be windows, doors, glass, the wood torn off, whatever, vines, all that shit.
Yeah.
Within that range, and if not, then the city would at that time take it back from you based on the non-conforming to those standards, which I think it sounds reasonable, right? Because we're not talking about making the inside where the rest of it. We're just talking about you're generating revenue. You have it one part livable. The exterior looks good. When people drive by, they go, okay, something's happening with this building. It's currently in works. Yes.
Yes, and like, can we just look at something like a full release or a whole
at the end of the
hold harmless or whatever, like, or whenever it's done. As soon as say July 1, it's looking fantastic. We do the thing. I want to quickly shake hands, cheer each other on. Hey, this is awesome, because it's not going to take a year. All right, I need to demonstrate to all my powers that be that we're pulling all in the direction, etc. So that is another piece legally. So let's figure out how to come up with that.
So if before that 12 months,
incentive to get it done quicker.
Okay. So I'm writing, or when done, or done, or when completed early.
And just like we're Kumbaya.
Yeah.
We
Release of all cities, whatever. What's the fuck's that called?
Well, just a hold harmless or
Yeah.
full release of obligations or whatever. I don't know. The lawyers will come up with
Yeah,
it.
they know what that shit is. All right.
Because what I just don't want to be a situation where we're not talking about stuff like if I hit a hiccup or whatever. Like I want to be in a position where we are full steam ahead down at Big Blue. We can have some schematics, get my landscape people when they're tearing all that ground up to start to put the unilock, get some of the stuff in there, get it looking good, so that we can say, hey, coming soon, we'll be able to do an event here.
But
so
I
we
don't
can
want you to get a boner down here and that one takes a back seat, right? Because, it's easy to do. If that gets going, you'll be like, fuck yes. And that goes on. So that's why this one, I want you to get this one done quick. Hopefully it's done before they get that easement shit done. And then we can release it to you, be done with it, and then the money that, whatever.
I mean, I just know right now, like, I can't talk with that. I can't do anything until until the lawsuits. I mean, I've managed not to be in a city lawsuit for many years. And I want to be able to look you both in the eyeballs. You tell me, Paul, fix this or this will happen. I just feel the gut punch from getting served 3 days before Memorial Day. And I want to share with you both that I'm also grateful because this has pushed me to today's 4 months of sobriety. Okay.
Congratulations,
Because
by
the
the
thing
way.
for me is like what I don't need to, going through this discovery phase. Okay. And going through like, no wonder I was drinking an extraordinarily stupid amount. Okay, so this is a different in what I want to share, and I am trying new tactics. I didn't go blah 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 blah. I didn't call. Every council person I talked to like, we don't remember voting. Listen, look, it's not even. And you said, Paul, I'll deal with that in office. I didn't bug you, so I just want to say it is a different space that I'm in right now, and I'm trying to have my actions speak louder than words, okay? So I will leave it at that, and thank you for this time, and I will be at the service, because I'm not going to get any more people invested in Ludlow with the lawsuit or with the problems. We just got to jettison that. It's a new administration. Ed started. I had Ken. I got Josh. I got Chris. So here we are.
Listen, I've told you from the get-go, I always will do exactly what I say. I'm a man of my word. If you guys tell me what to do, I do it. Nothing more. I don't care. Like, if people think I have an emotional, I don't. I want, my only goal here in this role is for everybody to be successful. I want the city to flourish. So when I walk away, I go, fuck, I actually pulled that off. That's it. And then the police-wise, all I care about is crime being low, people being safe, and people going, fuck, that worked out. That's it. So no matter what, I'm always going to do what's in the best interest of the city or the police, and I'm only going to facilitate. That's my job. I facilitate the ideas. So,
Thank you. And like, I came and I paid for my rental license the other day because I'm going to Airbnb the space above my place. So like, what I'm doing is just really like trying to, and I'll ask the question. I mean, he did stamp it, but there was a woman yelling at the code guy, so I didn't really get a chance to talk too much about it. Is it Brian? Is that his name? Jamie. So Jamie was really getting leaned into. Will I get something in the mail that says, or once it's paid for, is the license granted, or what happens from a rental license?
But I did hear something today. I think you owe taxes on that building. So okay. I don't think it can be fully approved till the taxes are
fine. No.
I think that's the only thing.
Yeah, no, I'll pay my tax.
You should get a mailer in the thing saying whatever.
Fine, no, I'm not asking. Because look, here's the thing, in the de-escalation phase, I don't have to put my taxes in escrow because I was having a hard time paying taxes for the lawyer who's suing against me. All right, so like that's just my game. That's the game that I played. So I hear you, and I'm not putting on Airbnb because I don't have the license, and this is where we're trying to talk it through. Yeah. So absolutely. Paying the taxes on these things. I will do it. I can't do the pace without it, but I was just keeping my powder dry, and I didn't want to be dealing with my lawyer and putting my taxes in escrow and taking my payroll tax in escrow. I just was like, I don't want to be stupid. I want to be productive. Yeah. And so I hear you, and I'm not going to, I'll take care of it.
Yeah. Because I think they said they mailed you something today. When somebody
sure.
Said, oh.
Well, no, I mean, again, that's where I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because yes. Yeah. I have until 8. It doesn't matter.
And that's an apartment.
The game we're playing.
That's an apartment, not an Airbnb. The one above are you doing an apartment or an Airbnb?
I was going to do an Airbnb.
Above that.
where people can like come and like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
check in for the weekend. Because my problem right now, from a circus side, I can't get the visas for other countries to come over. So I always provided housing, so I didn't worry about a license.
Yeah.
Now, because I can't get the artists, I'm trying to have people come and spend the weekend and do the circus and be an Airbnb experience. So is there a separate license for Airbnb?
No, it's all one now.
It's all one,
Did you
yeah.
tell them it's an Airbnb?
I paid the $100. I just checked the boxes. I said it was one unit. It was $125. I wrote the check. They stamped it.
No. So if they just charge you just a rental, there should be an Airbnb thing you filled out too, which is
All
like
right.
another $100.
Okay.
And the only thing that says that there's certain rules you have to have, like
Okay.
fire extinguisher. You have to have a map on your
Okay.
that says whatever.
Okay.
There's like a separate Airbnb rule you have to have.
I just found the rental license on the website. I didn't see it.
I'll have Jamie.
That's fine. I'll reach out.
I'll get a hold of you because it's just a separate application that goes with the rental shit. And there's like listed 10 things that you have to have in your
Fine.
place just to say rules.
Sorry. I
That's
know you-
easy though. That's an
But
easy.
again, this is where I don't want to say, oh, hey, you know, like I'm trying to Airbnb it so I can make the dollars, but I'm going to get my license. I'm going to do the tax. I'm trying to be a,
You did a good job
Citizen.
out there. When you walked me out there the
yeah,
other day.
no.
Oh,
that's
the
good.
apartment up there?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah,
It's
it's,
nice
it's,
space.
it's weird circusy stuff, but I put a new bed. I mean, but again, it's like, it's fine.
If you're getting an Airbnb
At a circus place.
at a circus
Yeah.
brewery, you kind of know. what you're
Check the
getting
box.
to.
Yeah,
So
it's about like that. About
It
that
was
range.
good, man. It was good
Yeah.
for what a person would expect.
Yeah, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
No,
All right. So,
all
is
right.
there anything unsaid that needs to be done before you guys split?
No, I'm comfortable with this. And Paul is.
You guys are comfortable.
Thank
You guys
you.
are good. Everybody's good.
Thank you.
All right. I will do this Monday. I mean, next week's actually pretty clear right now, as of right now. So I'll get the answers pretty quick. I would say I should have answers by Tuesday, Wednesday. That way, if you don't hear from me, message me or call me just because you
Fine.
never know where my life will take me.
Look, I'd say we can get together in a week. We didn't have to get together. We can just get together and figure out you're a busy guy, but we can, thank you, because I just want to be able to demonstrate to all my people, both my staff and my investor cohort, that this is globally how we're moving this thing forward. I will solve that. I will do that. We can have people there. I just want to be able to move forward in this way, because it'll take me a while to put the millions of dollars together to make it a full-blown wedding venue. But if we can do the outside stuff, and if they're absolutely, Paul, you cannot do it, then I'll have to rework some thought process or whatever. Okay, so maybe again, those are just where I'm trying to focus on a real positive thing that we can demonstrate that says, hey, look how we're doing this, and I will get that done without a restriction. I have to, I'm obligated. I've kept it insured. It's been hell, honestly, paying taxes on it and not see, for 10 years, that's what I did.
I couldn't do it. I don't know why I could. Like personally, I would sell this some bitch. Like I would.
Oh,
I would be like, I'm out.
No.
Gone.
But for me, and that's why I was trying to get rid of the brewery last year, and that's where I will share with you. I'm working on a nano brewery in Ohio.
What's that mean, a nano brewery?
Small, teeny tiny, like one keg at a time. You can make one keg. Yes. So there's a thing called the Hamilton County. It was called the Hamilton County Redevelopment Corporation. Now it's called Alloy. But we're looking at building a teeny tiny nano brewery in Ohio.
Yeah.
The rent's $1,500 a month, which is like I'm paying $5,000 in Covington. So I don't know that Covington's going to keep working out with us, but whatever. A 2-year lease, it's up. But when we make beer in Ohio, when Beerkus is making beer in Ohio, we can really ramp up production at Big Blue, and then we can make beer here and then sell it to Arnold's and sell it in Over the Rhine and sell it to all the places. Because I've had four
So the
distributors.
goal behind the nano brewery is not actually that you're producing much out of it.
Mm-mm.
It's that you get the distributing rights to Ohio.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I can add 4 or 5 people on payroll. I can add a truck. We can do.
I was
because
wondering what's the point to a nano brewery. I was like, what the hell's the point to that?
But, and this is where the Dora District and a lot of work we've done already really helps out, because my school bus up there that's parked for 2 years that I used to run around, I'm going to get it operational so we can do the transfer, so parking for weddings, all right? But also Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the goal is to go up there to Norwood and pick people up on the bus and bring them down here to Ludlow for the Dora District, so they can go to Second Sight, they can do stuff. So we're going to do a pickup at like 7 o'clock. That place will close at 8, so we'll do 2 pickups in Norwood, and then 1 drop off to Norwood at like midnight. They can Uber home or Lyft or whatever. But that's the way that I'm trying to like take an asset, which is the bus, have a reason to be over in Ohio, and look at it. So I just know that we cannot make enough beer at the theater for self-distribution and Covington and Ludlow. It's really inefficient to set the canning line up and down. And so for me to go to my investors and say, these are what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, et cetera, but we will be making a lot more beer here at Big Blue, and we will be then self-distributing into Ohio, which is an important step. So that's why Braxton bought 3 Points over in kind of by the casino there, so that they could make beer in Covington and shuttle it back and forth.
How far are you off from having the canning shit ready down here at the Blue? Because I remember when the electric and plumbing you had
Not
to do
far.
or some bullshit.
No. Like it's the plumbing permit's been approved. The power's on. The power's there.
So
It's
what-
a
what's
$500,000.
keeping them from doing it?
$500,000
To get it to where you can can and shit in there.
to get the building up to code baseline just for the one floor when we walked through when we had the
I
meeting.
remember,
That's $500,000 because I have to take the building down. I got to fix concrete. I got to put railings up everywhere. There's
So
it's
you're
a
about
$500,000
$500,000 before you're fully canning and.
But yeah, so the goal, it probably, because the elevator's not into it, and I had my appraisal, it's probably $750,000 to put the bathroom in there and get the elevator working. So I'm going to call it $1 million, right?
Yeah.
$1 million. Mo makes wine in the basement, okay? And she's going to get the build. We're going to get the $1 million, get the building completely signed off, fire inspections, PDS, certificates of occupancy. Then we'll unplug the brewery from the theater and move it down there. So there should be seamless production.
Is she making wine yet?
No. I mean, she's making some on a really small scale, but she's it's great. She lives in Ludlow, man, and she's
She's a character.
She's the Army Corps of Engineers. Like when we're talking about water access, waterfront development, stuff like that, she's a neat person to connect with because she's going to be my spokesperson for getting all that stuff done there. It's like, it's Mo, it's your project, it's your thing, go for it. She's been retired now for 4 or 5 months. She's just doing a lot of transitional stuff. But doesn't she fight with you?
She come down and train some, not with me. She
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
we want to train her.
No.
Yeah, she comes down every now and then.
I know.
She's a character.
I
I looked over one day, she's just staring at me. What the hell are you doing? I was going to say something. I was like, well, say it, for the love of God. Just staring at me from across the room. I was like, Jesus Christ.
So we're trying to get a heliport in for him. Just kidding.
She
used to fly helicopters.
She used to date one of the guys. So I have a guy up there who's been trained there for a long time. And one day he sees me and he's like, oh, shit. And I was like, what? I used to date her. I was like, you did? I goes, is it all kosher? He's like, oh, yeah. So, but I guess they dated for a long time. And he's just as different as she is. He's a pretty wild dude. He's a pretty different dude, too.
So that's the biggest. I mean, I'll raise the dollars either with Pace selling tax credits or whatever. Mo will be down there. The tanks will be going. We'll make that happen. And like that's the thing that that will be the next, like, hopefully when we have the meeting, when the Kumba Hatch is buried, we sit down and talk because she's going to be a part of really getting the weddings going and having the tents, and the wine that we make now will be for the weddings there because that's how we make money on that space is by, we're not going to make money selling to Kroger's, all right? We'll make money doing wrestling at the theater and a wedding down there for 200 people for now. But when all is said and done, you guys can say yes and or no. But I think we have a pretty good outline. It was like music was out by 10. There's a lot of work that's already been done on that.
Yeah. We
just have to make sure that it is, that everybody says, yes, Paul, we want it to happen versus I raise the money and something happens. So that's where that was the past. The future is let me get my stuff done.
You do know you're on a schedule though, right? Because I'm gone in 2 years. He's gone in 4. And council switches over in 2. So, you never know. And these cities are unique with their councils, mayors, and city administrators at this rate.
My Vote Ludlow page has been empty and dormant for a long time. I do not need to spend my time broadcasting stuff. I feel like a little like lazy. Like had I kept coming and stuff and kept participating, maybe we wouldn't be in this lawsuit. And I could have done a better job talking with Josh. And then there was because he went from coming to my bar every now and then to just having his dad and then radio silence. And look, it's just more for me. My kids are 15 and 17. I'm building a circus brewery in Ethiopia right now. All right, because I got people that started anyway. It's weird, but I'm not going to try and spend all my energy trying to get that rezoned as a circus school. Let's do the residential. If we can keep it industrial for right now, and we can do an outdoor tent while we're working through the waterfront development, because the Long Brothers, Covington, there's so many pieces that are cool. But you decide if we really want to do outdoor waterfront thing, we can make that happen, right? I'm being really. I just want to say thank you for the time. I will keep my mouth shut, keep my nose clean. I'll get the vines off thing. I will do the stuff. I want to do the stuff So that's what I want to say. If I wanted to sell it and get out of it for $250, I've got too many people that have been counting on this with me, and it's been my whole plan to begin with. So I'm not going to be like, I don't want to make circus anymore. I just want to make beer. Like, no, I'm like, it's a real estate circus household has been what I've been all about. So I'll say thank you.
All right, we got a plan.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Not that I don't want to
No,
sit
thank
bullshit
you.
with you guys forever.
No,
but I don't.
I said I drink some beer. I bring some beers from the meetings, but I don't drink.
We-
Have you heard about my non-alcoholic beer?
No.
It's Placebozo. It's for drunk ass
Really?
clowns. Placebozo.
Well, you,
Placebozo.
well, you know, did you see I was hanging out with Tom Harley for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? We were
Yeah,
hanging out
yeah.
about several.
Because the movie was.
Well, you know he doesn't drink.
Okay.
So I didn't know this. So I'm taking him out to eat and drink. And, every time we're going out, I look over, he's drinking a beer. Well, come to find out, he's telling the waiter to bring him a non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
And one day we did a whole toast, and we're doing something. I spilled my bourbon in his beer. But I knew at this point he wasn't drinking. He's like, oh, fuck it. Fuck sobriety. I guess I'll just throw it away. I was like, no, shit. He's like, no, fuck it. I'm done being sober. I was like, not on my fucking dime, dude. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
That was fun. The movie was fun. Huh? Good job.
Yeah.
Good job making that happen. That was excellent.
But he's an O'Doul's guy.
O'Doul's Amber's all right.
Yeah.
Anyway. I'll go this
All right. Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Yep. Thank you, gentlemen.
Paul, see you later. Be careful.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
See ya.